The camera industry has been lying to you for years. They've spent a decade drilling a single, relentless narrative into your head: if you aren't shooting full frame, you aren't a real professional. They wanted us to believe that APS-C sensors were just a phase. They wanted us to think of them as training wheels or cheap stepping stones meant to be tossed aside the moment you could afford a real camera. But what if the most disruptive, most exciting camera of 2026 isn't a bulky, overpriced full-frame flagship? What if the camera you actually need for wildlife, sports, and high-end hybrid shooting is a compact crop sensor powerhouse that inherits the pure DNA of a professional tank? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are breaking down an absolute beast that is about to shatter every myth in the industry: the upcoming Nikon Z90. We've gathered the most credible leaks, insider roadmaps, and industry rumors for 2026. If you just dropped $5,000 on a full-frame setup, you might want to look away. The Z90 is shaping up to be a total game-changer, and we're diving into exactly why this camera is about to flip the market upside down. Stick around until the very end, because the leaked video specs feature a collaboration that absolutely nobody saw coming. Let's start by addressing the massive elephant in the room. For over half a decade, Nikon shooters have been begging for a true mirrorless successor to the legendary Nikon D500. The D500 wasn't just a camera, it was a legend. It was the undisputed king of crop sensor DSLRs. It delivered blistering speed and professional autofocus for birders, sports photographers, and photojournalists. These were people who needed that extra reach without selling their car to buy a super telephoto lens. When Nikon shifted to the Z-mount mirrorless system, the transition felt incomplete. They gave us the Z50, the Z30, and the ZFC. Those are great for casual creators, but let's be honest, they are not D500 replacements. They lack the build, the speed, and the professional dual-slot reliability. Professionals have been left waiting and watching as other brands released high-end APS-C models like the Fujifilm X-H2S or the Sony A6700. But Nikon was just playing the long game. They were waiting until they had the technology to absolutely crush the competition. That is exactly what the Z90 is designed to do. It is bringing professional-grade capabilities back to the DX format without a single compromise. At the beating heart of the Nikon Z90 is a rumored 33-megapixel stacked backside illuminated CMOS sensor. Let's pause and talk about why that number is a massive deal. In the past, people thought 20 megapixels was enough for crop sensors. But in 2026, the standard has shifted. 33 megapixels is the absolute sweet spot. It gives you significantly more resolution than the old D500. This means you have massive flexibility to crop into your images in post-production. If you are photographing a bald eagle in flight or a fast-moving athlete, you don't always have time to frame your shot perfectly. Having 33 megapixels allows you to punch in and refine your composition without your image falling apart into a pixelated mess. But it isn't just about the resolution, it's about the architecture. A stacked sensor integrates memory right into the sensor structure. This allows for incredibly fast data readout speeds. This almost entirely eliminates the dreaded rolling shutter effect. If you've ever seen a golf club look like a wet noodle or a bird's wing look distorted in an electronic shutter photo, that's rolling shutter. The Z90 is expected to read light so fast that your subjects will remain perfectly sharp and undistorted, even when you are using the silent electronic shutter at top speeds. Now, let's talk about the true advantage of the APS-C format, the crop factor. This is the secret weapon that full-frame shooters don't like to talk about. Because the Z90 features a DX format sensor, it applies a 1.5x crop factor to any lens you attach. If you mount a 400mm lens on the Z90, you are instantly getting an equivalent field of view of a 600mm lens on a full-frame camera. You are essentially getting free optical zoom just by using this camera body. For wildlife and sports photographers, this is an absolute superpower. It means you can pack lighter, smaller, and vastly cheaper lenses in your bag while getting closer to your subjects than the full-frame shooter standing right next to you. Think about the cost difference between a 600mm prime lens and a 400mm lens. You are saving thousands of dollars while maintaining the same reach. Of course, a high-resolution stacked sensor is nothing without a processor that can keep up. The Nikon Z90 is confirmed by multiple insiders to be packing the APS-C processor. This is the exact supercomputer processor found in the Flagship Z9 and the Z8. Putting the APS-C into an APS-C body guarantees the camera will absolutely fly. It handles the massive data throughput required for high-speed bursts and high bitrate video without breaking a sweat. Because of this processor, the autofocus on the Z90 is going to be nothing short of breathtaking. We are talking about the complete suite of AI-powered subject detection algorithms inherited directly from the top tier of Nikon's lineup. The camera will automatically detect, lock onto, and persistently track human eyes, faces, and bodies. But it goes way beyond humans. It will flawlessly recognize animals, including dogs, cats, and specifically birds. The bird detection AF in Nikon's 2026 firmware is world-class. For aviation and motorsport photographers, it has dedicated tracking for cars, motorcycles, bicycles, trains, and airplanes. You no longer have to fight your camera to keep your subject in focus. You simply point the Z90, and the processor calculates focus millions of times per second. Even if a bird flies behind a tree branch for a split second, the Z90 is designed to hold that lock until the subject reappears. This level of reliability was once reserved for $6,000 cameras. Now, it's coming to the Z90. Speaking of speed, the Z90 is built for pure action. Leaks indicate the mechanical shutter will hit a blistering 15 frames per second. That is faster than almost any DSLR ever made. But the real magic happens when you switch to the electronic shutter. Thanks to that stacked sensor, the Z90 is rumored to push anywhere from 20 to 30 frames per second in full RAW. And if you need even more speed, it can hit an astonishing 120 frames per second in JPEG mode. Think about that for a second. 120 frames per second. You are essentially shooting a high-resolution video and extracting the perfect, defining microsecond of action. Whether it is a baseball bat connecting with the ball or a cheetah mid-sprint, you will never miss the decisive moment again. This camera turns getting the shot from a matter of luck into a matter of physics. If you are a filmmaker or a hybrid shooter, pay very close attention to this next part. This is where the Z90 goes from being a great camera to a legendary one. You might remember that Nikon recently acquired Red Digital Cinema. This was one of the biggest shocks in the history of the tech world. The Z90 is heavily rumored to be one of the first prosumer cameras to benefit from this acquisition. While it might not have the Red badge on the front, the video capabilities are heavily influenced by Red's color science and compression technology. The Z90 is expected to shoot internal oversampled 4K video at 60 frames per second using the full width of the sensor. This means beautiful, rich footage with no crop. It also offers up to 120 frames per second in 4K for buttery smooth slow motion. It will feature 10-bit recording with Nikon's N-Log color profile. This gives colorists massive dynamic range to push and pull shadows and highlights in post-production. But the real kicker? There are rumors of a RED-inspired, RAW video internal recording format. This would make the Z90 an absolute powerhouse for independent creators who need cinematic quality in a small, portable form factor. Let's shift gears to the build quality. A camera designed for wildlife and sports is going to take a beating. It's going to be out in the mud, the rain, and the heat. The Z90 will not feel like a delicate piece of consumer electronics. Following the legacy of the D500, it is expected to feature a rugged magnesium alloy chassis with extensive weather sealing. Nikon knows their pro users. They know this camera will be used in torrential downpours or dust storms on safari. The Z90 is being built to keep firing when other cameras fail. Internally, you can expect an advanced in-body image stabilization system. This IBIS will give you up to 6 or 7 stops of compensation. This allows you to shoot handheld in low light at slow shutter speeds without your images coming out blurry. It also makes handheld video look incredibly smooth, almost like you're using a gimbal. For storage, Nikon is not messing around. One of the biggest complaints about mid-range cameras is the lack of dual card slots. The Z90 fixes this. It will feature dual card slots. You'll likely get one ultra-fast CFexpress Type B slot. This is necessary to handle the massive data rates of 4K 120 frames per second video and those 30 frames per second RAW bursts. Alongside that, you'll get a high-speed SD UHS-2 card slot for backup or overflow. On the back, you'll find a bright, high-resolution articulating touchscreen. This is perfect for videographers, vloggers, or anyone shooting from awkward low angles. The electronic viewfinder is also getting a massive upgrade. It is expected to be a blackout-free, high refresh rate OLED panel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, share the video with your photographer friends, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an upload.